items. Thank you.
Item 2 has been withdrawn by the Executive's Office. Item 3 is tabled at request of sponsor. Item 4 is authorizing an agreement with the Advanced Albany County Alliance regarding the development of a parcel of real property located at 106 South Pearl Street in the city of Albany.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming before us this evening. And right now, what I am expecting is a presentation in regards to what the agenda was for the bus terminal. And so that we can have a discussion before we move to, because it is number 4 on here, but I just want the members to get an idea, especially the ones of this committee and those others that are here tonight, on what went on as far as the bus terminal is concerned. So I just let you give your presentation, and we're willing to hear right now, to hear everything that you have to say.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the opportunity, legislators, to be before you and kind of give you a quick synopsis, start to finish on the bus terminal and frankly what came before and the county's involvement, in basic terms, so everybody can kind of understand the process that we went through. So the county became involved with the property, the former McDonald's property in 2021, when the county assisted the cultural center, the African American Cultural Center, with the development of a grocery store. That involvement was financial, a $200,000 loan to the CRC for the development of the grocery store. Prior to that use, obviously, it had been McDonald's. It had been owned by the Housing Authority, and so that was the first kind of redevelopment effort. Obviously, that was something that the community had been asking for a long time, so kind of got behind that project. I think the experience there, everybody knows pretty well, and that endeavor closed up in 2024, correct? And in 2024, when the grocery store closed, because the county had invested in the property, the process began, and I think we came before you to acquire the property. I believe that was with $450,000 of ARPA funds, and at that point, we began the process of coming up with ideas for redevelopment. At this point, I'll kind of turn things over to Kevin. The process from that point forward was run through the Alliance, our economic development arm, and Kevin and his team really kind of grabbed the baton and ran.
Great, thanks, Mike. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'll try not to go over too much of what Mike did. The one thing that I would like to point out in the history of this site here is that this site was originally owned by the Albany Housing Authority, and it was leased back in 1996 to a gentleman named Leroy Twiggs, who some of you may remember. Leroy was one of the first African Americans to open up a McDonald's franchise in upstate, and ran that until about 2019 when it closed down. So there's kind of an interesting history here. The building itself was designed to emulate a tugboat to kind of connect the restaurant into the city's history with the Hudson River and so on. So, but coming up to the current time frame, let me just walk through the timeline, because some of the information that's been out there is just factually incorrect, and I'd like to set the record straight on this. So in March of 2025, County Executive McCoy met with Adirondack Trailways, and they approached the county executive in an effort to buy the McDonald's site to move their facility to, because they were being displaced from their current operations by Capitalize Albany, the property owner, to make way for the so-called Liberty Park development. In May 2025, Governor Hochul announced a $200 million cap initiative for downtown Albany. And in June of that same year, the Alliance convened a working group to meet with bi-weekly with a working group comprised of CDTA, New York State Department of Transportation, Albany City Planning, and on occasion, New York State ESD, to discuss the concept of a intercity bus terminal. It was agreed that a neutral third party should operate the terminal, not any one of the bus terminals, and it was thereby given some discussion that CDTA might be able to run it. In August of 2025, the governor's championing Albany's progress work group started their operations, their deliberations, and they identified the intercity mobility hub concept as discussed in their public meeting. This is in August of 2025. Hence, no process, no information about this. In February 13, the governor's downtown cap study was released, and it identified McDonald's site as the multimodal transportation hub. February of 2026, a TU's Up to You article on the governor's plan highlights the McDonald's site as a transit center. February 27th, County Executive McCoy held a press conference at the McDonald's to announce the concept of an intercity bus terminal. The Alliance then started its outreach program to the neighborhoods and to the surrounding community. April 30th, the Alliance met with the South End community leaders at a private meeting. May 13th, the Alliance convenes the first community workshop at Giffen Elementary School, a public meeting. June 2nd, the Alliance held the second local communities meeting. On June 9th, the Alliance held our second workshop, again down at Giffen Elementary School, to bring the public into the process. June 16th, the Alliance presented the project to the South End Collaborative at one of their meetings. And June 18th, the Alliance presented the project to the management and residents at the South Mall Towers. To date, all this generated a series of letters of support, not the least of which was from Adirondack Trailways, Greyhound Bus Companies, the Flix Bus Companies, New York State Department of Transportation, the Alice Moore African American Cultural Center, and others. Over 70 survey respondents were in support of the project. From the various input that the Alliance received at these meetings, the Alliance agreed and told everybody we would be doing an air quality study and a traffic study. Unfortunately, we never got to the point in the public process where we could start talking about some of the community benefits that we could offer to the community. And in particular, one that was very prominent in the comments from the community was the changing of the intersection at the corner of State and Madison. It's a very unfriendly pedestrian crossing there. Some of you may recall there's what they call a slip lane there, and there's no pedestrian crossing area there. And that was something that would have also been addressed in our project. But you know, that's pretty much the timeline of it. You know, this is a project that could have worked in this site, but you know, just doesn't appear to be happening.
I'd also like to point out that conversations were had with the many business owners down proximate to the former McDonald's site, where physically spoke to them. The county executive had many of these conversations, as I'm sure some of you legislators know, to pick their brains on if we were to do this development, what they needed from that site. And you know, to give you an idea, some folks seem to have this idea that there was no public input. There was an interesting, to give an idea of how we were trying to navigate the different needs of the community. Some community members wanted something like a coffee shop in the transit hub, whereas others said, no, just have a vending machine here to push folks out into the community to go to the local businesses. And those were the type of considerations that are very, they're seemingly insignificant, but are actually very, very serious, because there was a significant desire since the private development, the grocery store hadn't worked, to get something that was proven. We knew the bus station was there. We knew what the volume of buses coming in was. We knew what the people using the buses, what that volume was. So we knew that there would be success with the bus station. So we could bring that closer to the business district and consider what those folks needed to help augment their business while also providing a community benefit. So that's another aspect of the community outreach that was done on an individual level to the folks that are in that corridor.
All right. So let me say this. Now, I'm just gonna look at, the next thing here. I'm sorry. Now, did you expand on the length of the tail of the project and, the issue with, traffic study, emissions? Did you talk about that?
So, yeah, they're through the RFP process, and the process that the Alliance and Kevin and his team were engaged in, a traffic assessment would have been done. That was formalized after the public comment period into an actual traffic study. Kevin already mentioned the slip lane. That is a major issue. You're all aware of a lot of pedestrian issues that afflict some of the roads in the city of Albany. So that was certainly an issue that was going to need to be dealt with, as well as a larger question related to incoming traffic for those using the buses and the movements themselves, and all of that. So that had been formalized into a full traffic study that we were willing to do. In terms of the emissions concern, the county has an extensive history of monitoring air quality, specifically in the South End. For those who remember the bomb trains issue, the county had been monitoring air quality in the South End going way back before COVID. COVID's always our time marker. But long ago, probably 5-10 years ago, we had started air monitoring. There are still, I believe, air monitors on the roof of our Department of Health. We've had air monitors in Ezra Prentice and all through the South Pearl Corridor, we'll call it, that we've worked with DEC on. So that's not something that's foreign to the county at all. And we were going to do a similar study related to the development of a bus terminal to determine if any change would occur by moving the station from its current location to the 500 feet or 300 feet if your trailways move to the corner of the McDonald's site.
Okay, so let's talk about the buses, okay? How many buses come into the present area right now?
Yeah, about 60 a day, Madam Chair.
Okay, and so, can you talk about the constraints as far as when people talked about bus idling and so forth? What kind of rules and regulations are in place now as far as the buses that are there, that are coming in, those 60 buses? And wait, and another piece too. Did I hear you say they were moving, it was only a movement of 300 to 500 feet?
Correct.
All right, okay, but,
Right.
good.
And that's what I was just going to point out. There seemed to be this impression that this was being moved from some faraway location into the South End. That's just simply not the case. It was being moved 300 feet from one of the terminals and 500 feet from another terminal. But again, getting back to your early question about the emissions, both carriers, Greyhound as well as Adirondack Trail, have instructed their drivers to shut their engines off after 3 minutes of monitoring, and they have automatic shut-offs if the engines idle more than 5 minutes. If the buses are not going anywhere else, there are alternative or peripheral lots that these buses park at if they're not going to be used to come and go. But the bus companies tell us that they try to get into these terminals and out of these terminals as quickly as possible because they make money when the buses are on the roads carrying passengers from one location to another.
On point of what we're talking about right now, does anybody, before I move on to the next things that I have on here, any questions on the buses and that what they've spoken about so far? Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to go back in the failed grocery store, the $200,000 loan was from us?
It's from the CRC.
Okay. What happened to that loan? Did we have to eat the loan because the store failed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not good.
Fundamentally, they defaulted on the loan, correct?
Okay, we got stuck with
Correct.
the default. I've heard so much about the vote was scheduled and there was a planned forum the next night. How can that happen?
Excuse me, what was that question?
The vote, there was a planned forum, public forum, the night after the vote was scheduled. So I've heard.
So keep in mind, the vote was for the matching funds for the grant. it wasn't for the finalization of the project. It was to provide the funds to qualify for the state cap funding matching funds. So we were simply advancing, and it was actually only $1 million. We put 1.5 just for contingencies, as you do in any capital project. It was just the matching funds to access a portion of the 200 million that the governor had put up in the cap initiative. That's what the vote was on. It was not on the finalization of the project. Kevin and his team were going through that. But because the county backs up the alliance in terms of their finances, that's what it was. It was simply a match of the grant.
Why were so many people at the public hearing? I was at the public hearing and it was embarrassing. What would you do differently in terms of community relations?
Okay, can I just say one thing? This is what I'm trying to get at now. I really want to understand, the project before we get into all of the discussion on what happened at the meeting.
Okay.
I want everybody to understand what the project was about first. That's why.
Madam Chair, I have a point of clarification I'd like to ask. Point of clarification.
Clarification on,
I read in the newspaper that the county executive withdrew this project. And then you're gonna put a for sale sign in front of the lot. If that's the case, are we trying to resuscitate a project here? Or are we using our committee time to do a postmortem? What is the purpose
the
of
purpose
this
of this
dialogue?
right now, first of all, it's on the agenda. It is on the agenda, okay? And so, it has not been withdrawn, okay? And there are, excuse me?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just, you know, the
It hasn't been
county executive said
withdrawn.
it was.
And there are questions in regards to what the project was about. And so the clarification is to find out what went on with the project. That's the clarification, okay? And these are questions that came up from other members, and that's what I'm trying to do right now, okay? So that we have a clear understanding of that money, that 1.5, but also of the project itself and its effects on decisions that was made to, first of all, table it, because we still have the option here of tabling, because I do believe that there were things, the misnomers and some of the things that came out were incorrect. So that's it, that's the answer to that, okay? So could you tell me, what was the length, of the project, okay? And could you tell me something about the public safety concerns that people had?
Well, public safety was really came out of complaints related to people's experience at the existing bus terminal. It was a culmination of complaints about obviously cleanliness, certainly homeless folks being there, safety, drugs, and our way of solving that was saying, okay, we'll work with the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office is already operating within the city. We can ask him to place an officer, a substation, if you will, at the bus terminal to make sure that there's always law enforcement presence at the location to create a different, safer, more welcoming environment that hopefully from a quality perspective lasts longer because there's less opportunity for vandalism and degradation of the property itself. So from a safety perspective, we thought we had presented a perfect solution to all of the ills of the existing station.
All right, can you, if you haven't, can you explain again the funding that the county has already spent on this property?
Yep, so there was a $200,000 loan through the county CRC. That was the loan that the grocery store management defaulted on. And then there was $450,000 through ARPA that was used to purchase the property itself and take it into county ownership.
All right, so as far as the economic viability of this, okay? And what were the lessons learned from the grocery store?
Well, I mean, perhaps this is an opinion statement, so I'll preface it by saying that we knew that there needed to be a solution on this site that was economically viable. And by that, I mean something that would not be a risk of failure again. So it seemed like the perfect opportunity to bring in something that everybody knew, just so everybody's aware, the bus locations, and Kevin, jump in here with the timeline, but the current operators that are at the 2 bus stations are going to have to vacate the property in April of this coming year? April of 2027 to make way for the anticipated redevelopment of Liberty Park. There is no development of a bus terminal of any kind within the conceptual designs that we've seen for it to stay on that site. So there was the benefit of keeping this vital transit hub in, generally speaking, the same location, capturing that population, moving it to a safer location. So fundamentally, what is as close to a guaranteed success as you can get, moving that population closer to the commercial district to enhance that area and provide an added benefit to the community and the businesses in that area, and really kind of bring all of those competing interests together into one solution. So that was what we were going for. And then when you add in management by CDTA, eliminate, and this is not on our side of things, but on the operator side of things, there had been some rivalries and some bad blood, which is the reason that we ended up with 2 different transit hubs, one for Trailways and one for everybody else. Bring them back together, which is a model that is used in many other places, by the way, where the local transit authority manages the bus station, can work to integrate their bus system into the long distance buses and put everything under one roof. So it seems to us that this was an obvious benefit to the community. And then of course you wrap in the fact that there was funds coming from the state so that this project could be not just a drab basic facility, but could have been built into something that was architecturally contributing to the area and was something that could be, what we hoped, the catalyst for the further development of the south end. It seemed like a no-brainer.
Okay, so, excuse me. Okay, I'm sorry. So can I ask you this? There have been concerns from the community in regards to what they say please don't turn this into a parking lot, okay? So can you just tell me what the county is planning and the alliance to do next, please?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I had a board meeting of the Alliance, who is in fact the legal property owner, in middle of July, and I'll be talking to the board about it at that point. We have had some inquiries into the site for other uses, but nothing that I would say at this point is anything as advanced as the bus terminal project was.
So we're not going to continue to seek new proposals or anything like that?
At this point, no. We have received some inquiries from some interest, but I don't really consider them particularly serious. But I'll be discussing it with my board at the meeting in July and try to get some guidance from the board and take it from there.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for coming. So we were going to vote to allocate 1.5 million for this project, and then so many people, like my colleague said, so many people came to speak against the project itself, right? And then we were told that the next day there was going to be a public forum, and I was there, Caroline, Dr. Caroline was there as well to attend the public forum. And when we got to that public forum, it wasn't really a public forum. It was pretty much just to decide what kind of design the people wanted, as opposed to being a public forum for people to speak on the project itself. why was that? Why would so many people come and speak against a project that you are proposing one night, and then the following day, you put up a sign for people to come and select the project that they want to, the project that they just spoke against, for them to come and select the design? Why was it like that?
Well, this project was not conceived, a month ago or 2 months ago. This project was conceived over a year ago. It was included in Governor Hochul's workshops that she held on her downtown plan. It was announced by the county executive back in February of this year. This narrative that nobody had a chance to comment on it is simply untrue. And personally, I think that the public narrative was hijacked by a group of people who really don't care about a bus terminal, but who had a separate agenda here that they were pursuing. And it's unfortunate because you think about the traveling experience of those people who fly into our region, those people who take the train into our region, and then those people that take the bus into our region. The bus experience into our region is terrible. And there's no reason we as a community should tolerate people who take the bus into our community to have a substandard experience like the one they have right now. And the other point is, we got over 70 survey responses to our questions about this terminal. All of them weren't supportive. All of them had ideas about what could be done there. Charging stations, electric bikes. So this narrative that everybody was opposed to it is just not the reality of the experience that I had in dealing with this project.
If I could also add too, so the schedule that was set for the hearings, or excuse me, the public forums, I guess maybe it should, but it wasn't coordinated with your meetings. It was set to give the greatest opportunity for community input. And frankly, it was done in 2 different ways on purpose, because that's best practice. Like that is the best way to solicit public input. The best way to solicit public input is not always to just hold a group of people in an area and have them speak out publicly. That's not the best way. That's why you have breakout sessions. That's why you have a more passive forum, which was the second meeting, where folks came in to boards to review, to give their feedback in smaller groups, in a less pressurized atmosphere, where some people who don't like to stand up in front of a bunch of people then have the opportunity to speak. I think that people don't realize that it wasn't avoided. That was on purpose. It was calculated for a reason, because we wanted to give everyone the opportunity to say.
We didn't get the opportunity to say. What you have is posters with different designs, and you say, what do you want at the bus terminal? It wasn't more. Over 30 people came to speak to us at the meeting, saying they do not want the bus terminal. We were expecting, as legislators, we came there to see, okay, we want to hear from the community what the people that support it, we want to hear from them. The people that doesn't support it, because I was going to vote in support of it, but then when 30 people came to speak against it, I was like, okay, maybe we should hold on it, and then there's a public forum the next day. Okay, let's attend this public forum so that we can actually see the feeling of how people really felt. When we got to that public forum, it was not a public forum as you are saying. It was posters everywhere. Tell us what you want to see at the bus station. That is not a public forum.
Can I just say one thing? Okay. I hear what you're talking about. I want to know about the proposal itself. Now, there's a few questions that I hear what you're saying, but let me just ask these 3 questions, and I think that might help the situation here. One is, were there opportunities to redesign portions of the proposal based on community input? That's one question. What criteria were used, at the time the project became public, how complete was the overall plan? So those 2 things, I kind of like want to understand, based upon what you're saying. I want to get past that, and I want to know, just as far as the project was concerned, and we were asking them for their input, okay, was that the opportunity to redesign that project?
Yes, Madam Chair, it was. As a matter of fact, the RFP that the Alliance sent out was not an RFP to construct a bus terminal that was already designed. it was an RFP for what they call a design-build project. That means that we hired a company, Wayne Shaft Associates, to come and start a process which would get input on how the facility would to be designed, and then incorporate that into the ultimate construction of the facility as it went along. But as we all know, that process was short-circuited. Anything you want to add to that?
Yes, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Jeremy Smith, the Senior Vice President of Real Estate for the Advanced Albany County Alliance, and I was the lead on that project for the Alliance. So there were 2 community meetings that took place, and the signage for those meetings was put up prior to the first meeting. So just to clarify on your statement. The first meeting was more of an open public forum where there was presentation on what the project was, and community feedback was given at that point. Microphone passed around, comments made, as well as comment cards that were submitted. The second public meeting was a community workshop, and that's what took place there. That's why there were boards up there. That's why the input was coming in. And to the chairwoman's point, that was to finalize the design of the facility, to learn what was most important to the community, and in 5 different aspects, what the community was looking for there. And it was the architecture. Did they want it, does the community want it to be historic or a bit more modern? What would they like inside in the retail aspect? Was there some specifics in there? The intersection, which was brought up and ended up being one of the higher topics with that. And then outdoor space, a plaza space. And part of that was also to show some historic museum type actions for that. So that's what that meeting was for. And to your point, Madam Chair, that's how the final design would have been determined based on that input from the public.
So the actual construction, what decisions would still have been required? Do you answer in this then? Before required public input before construction began, and this is what you're explaining. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Madam Chair, ultimately, there would have been another public meeting where we would have taken, our consultants would have taken all the feedback they got from the public meetings, put that into a final design, and then present it to the community for their input on the final design. And if everything went well, we'd go back to the board and they would give the go-ahead to start construction of the project.
Ms. McLaughlin, Dr. McLaughlin?
Thank you. As someone, I'll say from the onset, as someone who supported the project, I attended both meetings. I attended the public forum and I attended the workshop. I was informed just through my interest in the bus terminal about the meetings. I also observed signage as big as that window over there on the corner of Madison and Pearl with the dates of these meetings. And so people were given the opportunity to know when the meetings were taking place. So I just want to correct that people didn't know these meetings were happening. The sign remained there. As a matter of fact, it may even still be up there, I don't know. But because I had people calling me that own property, live around the area. I live in the South End. I travel South Pearl and Madison, probably 90% of my travel going to and from home. I had the opportunity to attend the first meeting where the presentation was made. The representatives from Greyhound, representatives from the developer, representatives from Trailways, CDTA were all at those meetings. And when people stood to raise questions or make comments, they were there to answer and respond to those questions and concerns. I've attended many of these kinds of meetings, charrettes about projects that were going to take place, particularly in the South End, where I have represented people for almost 30 years. So I know what it means to listen to the people, hear what they have to say, and bring it to the table. So my understanding was you're going to listen and then come back to the second meeting. The storyboards that were available at the second meeting were there. They incorporated the things that were heard at the first meeting. They had some designs for people to look at, continue to raise questions. So individuals that came to the meeting on the second meeting, this whole forum question may have confused people, thinking that they were coming to sit in the auditorium and just go back and forth. I think that may have confused people, may have even confused legislators. So whatever the case, I knew what to expect, and I tried to explain to people. This second meeting, you will have opportunity to see what the potential designs are of the bus station.
Okay.
I went down there with that expectation. I went there, people were asking me questions. I referred them to the developer. I referred them to the representative from the bus station. Every storyboard had somebody stationed at it to answer questions. Not like people weren't gonna be heard, because they did have the opportunity to be heard. There were sticky notes for them to write continuing concerns they had. So I'm saying all this to say that I believe that people were given the opportunity. Could there have been more opportunity? Yes. But for those two meetings, can I finish my sentence?
Can I please, the purpose of having the Alliance come in front of us was to talk about the project and what their intentions were. Let me finish, please. That was the purpose. This is on, on the schedule. We know that the county executive has said he wants to withdraw this project. At the same time, to offer the fact that, we might want to table this again, they want to withdraw it, that's fine. But main purpose of this is to find out, okay, what was the project all about? It was tied into the state. It was, we got $1.5 million, is that what it is? Tied up in this. There was other things that were done at that site, okay? And when we talk about all of the money that has been expended on that, I just wanted to know, not so much, somewhat of what went wrong, but more about what the project was about. I didn't bring the Alliance in here to get beat up anymore. That's not the purpose. Absolutely not. We've already talked about the public input. But what I'm trying to do is this, is to ensure that those people who did not understand the project and what it was about, maybe they could hear something tonight. And I'm really talking about the members of the committee who have to vote on this, okay? And that was the real purpose of this tonight, okay? And so at this point in time, because we do have to get on with our agenda, yes?
There are a couple of questions, Madam Chair. Because
Okay,
we
so
weren't able to ask questions, by the way, on the floor.
okay, hold on a moment. This is, we do still have more, I'm gonna let everybody know this, because I gotta cut this off at some point. Okay, I do, all right? And so, if it's on the project itself,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll entertain those questions.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want it on the project itself, if we can be more educated on what it was about.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify something. Is the bus station planned for McDonald's site, is that dead or not? It's unclear to me.
As far as the county executive's office is concerned, yes.
Okay, well,
Okay.
that's directly on the project.
Okay.
So are you there was a press conference this week about a possible bus station at the Empire State Plaza. Is that something you're considering?
We have no involvement in the state facility.
But are you considering that possibility?
What would there be for us to consider?
So what is your plan then, just to make it a parking lot? How would that fit into economic development?
Right now, there's nothing in consideration for that site, if that's your answer. Or if that's your question, and answer to your question.
Well, is that your economic development plan, to make it a parking lot?
No, our economic development plan right now is to leave it as it is, and as Kevin said, if we get any proposals for the project, the Alliance will consider them. But there is no other proposal waiting in the wings for this site.
Well, the county executive, I read a statement, he said we may make it a parking lot, and I don't think.
Well, if we don't get any proposals that are viable, then there hadn't been any since 2019. I'm sure Bob Belver may appreciate the assistance.
Madam Chair, can I ask you a question? Because it's an agenda item. are you unclear whether or not the bus station is dead at that site or not? What's your impression?
Okay, the chair, you don't get to question other legislators or the chair,
Why not?
period, because it goes against parliamentary procedures.
I know.
Okay.
What you think?
But, yeah.
Okay, so, Mr. Bergdorf, please.
I'm going by what the county executive's office said, which is, as far as they're concerned, it's dead. It's not gonna be at that site. You know, there are other people who are floating the idea of the Empire State Plaza, but let me throw you a little bit of a curveball. Don't we own a giant building called Central Warehouse, which is supposed to come down?
Yes, we do.
That is a site under our care, custody, and control.
It is.
Is that, could that be an appropriate place for a bus station which was not going through Albany city streets in front of apartment buildings, down at the junction where 787 in the commercial area of Albany is? Because that seems like a no-brainer to me, but then again, what do I know? But, you know, it seems to me, you
Mr.
say.
Bergdorf,
Excuse me.
I hear what you're suggesting right now,
Yeah.
okay? The one thing I just want to get to is this, because we have to take this, you know, at some point off the table, okay?
Madam Chair, I can answer that question,
Okay.
very quickly.
All right.
Timeline doesn't work. The current bus providers need to be out there by April of 2027. Site won't be ready. There's no way. They're gonna have to run buses. They're gonna relocate.
Could you make that point again, so that we
Timing
can?
doesn't work for Central Warehouse. That building will not be down. The site will not be clear in time for when those buses have to be relocated. And those buses have, you know, clients. They will relocate, plan for another location so that their bus schedules can just transfer to a different location.
Okay, then I hear something else too about one of those two bus companies of their contract as far as where they are. Is that going to?
Both bus companies have to be out of their site they basically have to have a new home probably within the next couple of months, because they've got to publish schedules, and then on those schedules, it's got to say, here do you pick up and drop off the people. We were proposing, you know, the only reason we got into this is because the bus companies came to us about the McDonald's site. We kicked it around, we formed a working group. It seemed to like it hung together between Department of Transportation, CDTA, City of Albany, the Alliance, the county. But this is not a problem of our making. These two companies are being evicted from their current locations to make way for the City of Albany's Liberty Park development. So if they don't come to the McDonald's site, they've got to find someplace else, and they've got to do it rather quickly.
Just for clarification, the county does not own where the bus station currently is, right?
The Alliance owns it.
Okay. No,
Oh,
the current location.
No, that's owned by Capitalized Albany.
Yeah, so the only reason the county was involved was because there was a proposal from a private developer to move it to a county site. Otherwise, the county could not be involved because it does not have
Correct.
ownership of the other site. Okay.
Okay, so is it now my understanding, and I'm gonna make this clear to everybody, that the county, are you gonna withdraw?
Whatever is easiest for you, Madam Chair. We can table it. Typically, formal withdrawals of legislation have in the past, the majority office has asked for a formal memo from the county executive's office saying that we're hereby formally withdrawing this piece of legislation and dating it. We can do either. We can table it in anticipation of withdrawal. We can withdraw it here at the table, whatever you prefer.
Okay, so tonight, in the interest of time, so I wanna table this because I wanna finish the business that we have at hand. And then, again, you know, have a conversation to ensure that, you know, that's the way the county executive is gonna go, he's gonna withdraw. But right now, I just wanna table it, you know, for further discussion later. Can I get a motion to table? We got a motion? I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item 5 has, related to the Veterans Memorial Cemetery, has been tabled at request of sponsor. Item 6 is authorizing an agreement with the Greenway Conservancy for the Hudson River Valley regarding the Hudson River Valley Greenway Heritage Grant and amending the 2026 Albany County budget. Kate Pauley is here this evening.